Hey guys, Pupsker here, and we're talking about, today, old school versus new school MapleStory, or old school versus new age MapleStory, and also if people actually give a shit or want a nostalgia server. So, as you guys may or may not know, nostalgia servers are pretty much a server from a very old patch. Some would call it, like, for example, in World of Warcraft, they had a vanilla server. These are usually, at this point, private servers, because a lot of companies don't create old patch servers. Now, one of the biggest MapleStory private servers is indeed a nostalgia server. I believe it was MapleStory version 0.83. I might be wrong on that, not 100% sure. And since it is one of the biggest private servers, it begs the question, do we actually want a nostalgia server? Does everyone on current GMS, and even like KMS, sure, and all the other regions want a nostalgia server? Like, let's look at it like this. Old school versus new school MapleStory. In old school MapleStory, it would take hours to reach, like, third job. It would take days on days on days. Like, getting to, like, second job would take at least a day or two. At least. Nowadays, getting to second job takes at least 15-20 minutes. Like, it takes no time at all to reach level 30 now. And hitting level 70 is like, oh no, it'll take me a couple hours. Versus old MapleStory, which, that was the farthest I got, was around level 70. Like, it took forever to get to 70. And once I got there, I was like, okay, around 70, I quit. Got a hermit, I was good to go. I was done. But now on MapleStory, it's so easy. I'm level like 203 on my Demon Slayer already, and I've only been back to MapleStory for like a month and a bit on reboot at least. Yeah, only like 2-3 weeks maybe. It's just amazing. Old school reboot didn't have any sort of pay-to-win aspects. It only had non-permanent NX. Remember, back in the day, the NX would always expire, and it would only last, I think it would still last 90 days though, so I mean, that was good. I remember back in the day on old school MapleStory, I was so bad at with pots and like having money that I would actively have to go to Genesis and just pick up loot that like the people grinding there didn't care about, because I had like no money, right? And people would just grind around Hennessy's, like killing slimes and pigs and such, and I would just go around picking up their loot because I was like, I need potions. Oh my god, I need potions. I don't have any health and mana. Because, oddly enough, the game back then, the economy was weird. It was actually hard to play the game. Like, you had to actively know what to do. It was bad, man. Now, nowadays, I would probably be fine, because when I played, I was like 10 probably, right? So I didn't really understand properly how to get Mesos. I didn't really look any of that up. I just like played the game and dicked around and adventured, right? Nowadays it'd be like, oh, I could probably be fine. But in current gen MapleStory, you have literally zero issues with having enough Mesos for potions. And drop rate, or drop gear, drops like everywhere. So you're never gonna have an issue with, oh, I don't have my level equipment. Or, well, you might, but only temporarily. So it's like new age versus old school MapleStory. It's just such a big thing. Back in the day, the number one way to level up was party quest. People would do the carnival party quest, the I think it was like the King Slime party quest back in Urban? Back in Kerning. And it was actually, that was the main source of leveling. It was party quests. And nowadays, party quests are completely obsolete, because MapleStory has balanced itself in a way that grinding is the number one way to get experience. And it's, most of the time, it's better to do it alone. Or with like a Kana, a Bishop, and a Beast Tamer. Like 3 support classes. It's actually crazy. Like, old school MapleStory was more based around people having fun, doing stuff together. New age MapleStory, it's like, well, what do we do together? We do bosses together, because people carry each other through bosses. We do the Commercy party quest together because we need to. And we do what we do together because we either have to, or because we want to carry our guild. Like, stuff like that, you know? And it's, I don't know. I don't mind, but I'd rather, like, party quests still be a thing, and, you know, it'd be a good way to level. But I guess that's hard to balance. And yeah. So, yeah, old school MapleStory was a lot more community driven, wasn't pay to win, there wasn't Star Force, hammers, cubes, none of that shit. No, but there were still scrolls, and it was there was no like way to undo that. So you had to be very lucky and perfectly scroll your gear. And getting equipment was not easy. You did not just pick it up off mobs. Generally, you crafted it at like the item crafters, right? I remember getting my claw, and I'd have to like farm like iron ingots or leather or stuff like that. It was a mess. And another thing, you could roll your stats when creating a character, and then so you'd have to get like perfect stats on a roll, which that was actually an awful system, just because if you rolled enough times, you'd get your perfect stats. It would just take a while. Also, since the game was balanced kind of weird, there were classes that had like, for example, classes back in the day had 2 stats. Let's say you're a magician, for example. I don't know if this is 100% true, but you would have int, your main stat, and then something like dex, I believe dex, maybe even luck for like hit chance, right? So there were classes that would go 100% int, and they would scroll their gear for dex so that they could hit, but do a lot more damage. And you'd have to be very funded. Every other class would just be like, okay, I'll put it into int and then dex so that I can actually hit the mobs, you know? And it was just a weird dynamic. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of differences, but nowadays, missing, you're never gonna like have a miss chance, right? Unless the mob specifically nerfs your attack hit rate, which is, you know, a thing, but yeah, it's not really an issue. And now you only have one primary stat, and you just have your auto stat button. So like, what's, you know, you don't need to give a shit. You just hit auto stat, boom, you're good. You are good. So yeah, I'm gonna have 2 separate comments, one saying, do you want a nostalgia server, and one saying, do you not want a nostalgia server? Upvote my comment for the nostalgia server if you want it, and upvote the other one if you don't. I mean, you'll see them, so it should be fine. Because that's like the only real way I can properly gauge if you want a nostalgia server. I'll have 2 comments, like the one that you agree with. Nostalgia server, yes. Nostalgia server, no. So, yeah. It's the end of this video, guys. Hope you appreciate it. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube, check out my Twitter, and subscribe to my Twitch, and, I mean, even jump on my Discord. It's all in the description box down below. And I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.